Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Rodney O Podcast, and today we got a special treat for you. We are going to talk about something that will help you get to where you want to be in life. You don't want to miss it, so welcome to the Rodney O Podcast. So in 6th grade, I became interested in playing drums, percussion drums, and I began just to take lessons from the school. The school would come around back in those days and they would say, what instrument you want to play? We would pick an instrument, and I picked the drums. And so one of the things that I noticed that kind of screamed loudly was the natural talent I had for that. And the natural talent that I had for that was positive because I was able to advance pretty fast and pretty far. But it also gave me this attitude of complacency. Especially later on in my life as a percussionist, as I went into high school, I just grew tired of it, and I really didn't practice much, if at all, but I was able to really be good and really be ahead of the rest without any work. But the problem with that was, again, I was not getting better at all. And so what happened was other people were able to advance a lot faster than me eventually, and they caught up and they surpassed my skills by the time I was finishing high school. And I realized a valuable lesson that I became complacent because I was settling for good enough, right? I was at one point, and it sounds conceited, but at one point I was the best. And I only say that to say because I had a poor attitude with that. I became complacent, and I wasn't the best for long. A few years is just relative, but overall, people were able to surpass me because of my lack of preparation and my lack of practice, and just me being complacent and my lack of just the drive to better myself. And so I compare that to when I was doing my management. When I got my first job at 15, and I progressed to being a shift manager at 17, told the story many times. And I was able to progress pretty fast, eventually being promoted twice in 1 year. And I remember when I had requested that promotion, I was told, Rodney, seemed like we just promoted you. Why do you think you deserve it again? And I was very confident and very bold and say, look, I work at this. I strive to be the best, and I make myself get better and better over time. So I think I am ready, and I think I deserve this, and I think I'm ready for being promoted again. And so they took that, and they kind of waited a little while, but that same year, sure enough, I was able to be promoted again, twice in 1 year. And the thing about that is, this time I wanted more. I wanted more than just being promoted again. I wanted multiple units. I wanted to manage whole districts and then whole regions. And so there was never any stopping to what I wanted to do until I was forced to stop, and that's a different story. But again, the story is that comparing the two situations, one, I grew complacent, and the other, I grew to want to get better. And so today on the Rodney O Podcast, we're going to talk about the art of bettering yourself. Welcome to the Rodney O Podcast. So today, as we mentioned, we are talking about the art of bettering yourself on the Rodney O Podcast. And, I talked about the art of growing complacent, right? The nature of us to grow complacent. I think a lot of us are in that boat. One of the things I've really enjoyed lately was The Last Dance. And that was the story of the Chicago Bulls, their final year that they were going for the championship, that number 6, the second of the three-peats. And I remember back then just really being a fan of Michael Jordan. He's the one that got me into basketball, that got me to like the basketball. And just seeing The Last Dance just kind of affirmed why I really, really like him. I mean, he just had to drive to get better each day. And he just had to drive that each time, each practice, each wind sprint, whatever it was, each competition, whatever it be, basketball, whatever else, he wanted to win. And he had that drive. And it just kind of spilled into everybody else, where he wanted to push everybody else along. Because we don't do that, right? We don't get after it every single practice, every scrimmage, every wind sprint. We don't do that. We just settle for good enough. Hey, I had a decent practice. Now we got to do, suicides are wind sprints at the end of the practice. I'll go ahead and do something, but I'm not going to go all out 100%, right? I mean, it's just practice, right? And I mean, look at our government. It's a great example of being good enough, if even that, right? No motivation to get better or improve. You go to the DMV, and not to, I don't like talking about workers, but, certain things, you go in but you're doing things right now to kind of revamp that. But, you used to go in there and just unorganized and just long waits, long lines. And you're spending half the day in there to get something done, right? And just not an example of efficiency because it's just good enough. There's no motivation to improve. I mean, we're a society of having milestones and completions, right? Like we finished high school. Okay, we're done. That's a completion. Whew, I'm done learning, right? Or finished college. I got the degree. Okay, now I go to work. I'm done learning. Retirement. I'm done working, and I'll retire and do nothing, right? Because you sit there and you say, I already know such and such. I already know how to do whatever. I already learned how to do this. And we just stop doing that. And see, we are also rewarded a lot of times for completion, right? So, you get the degree and you're done, right? You have a feeling of accomplishment and you should have that feeling. But then what's next? There's nothing next. We're just done. We're going to go to work. Jordan got a ring, but he wanted more. And he got 6 of them. And he could have had more, right? His streak was ended by someone else. Watch The Last Dance if you're not sure. But, someone gets their college degree or their job maxes out on salary. And then they say, you want to, keep climbing up? No, I'm happy. I'm complacent to where I am now. And for some things, that's okay, right? Sometimes we look at climbing the ladder, right? It has an artificial top, and it shouldn't. We climb the ladder and we say, okay, I got to a certain point. This is good enough, and I'm stopping. And again, for some, that is good, right? For some, that is what you want to do, and that's fine. But I want to say that, because society rewarded us for good enough, or you tried, or you did your best, or you came in the top 3, that's good. You should be happy for that. That it makes us be complacent a lot of times. I remember Perry Noble. Perry Noble is a pastor, and I've been following him for years. And years ago, he ran a marathon. And he didn't finish. I forgot how many miles he went, but he ended up just not making it, being dehydrated, passing out, having an ambulance call. He woke up in the hospital, and he just really didn't feel good about that. Just really felt that he couldn't do anything, that he was a failure. And then just recently, he said he's going to run another marathon, and he gave that story about how he failed before. And people said, no, you didn't fail because at least you ran it. And he said, no. That's not what it's about. That's not being better. That's not getting better. That attitude is not something where I'm trying to improve myself, because you don't get rewarded for good enough, right? And so this past week he ran it and he completed it. And he felt good because he had the attitude that I'm going to get better. I'm going to better myself. So here's my point. We need to make it a point to be better than we were yesterday. Let me say it again. We need to make it a point to be better than we were yesterday. Are we sitting there? Are we improving our skills? Are we reading again the next day after we finish a book or after we finish school so we can learn more and improve and be better than yesterday? Do we have mentors or training that can help us along so we can be better than we were yesterday? I always mention the faith mindset courses that me and my business partner Soren did, and that's available. So if you're interested in that, please just shoot me a message in the podcast description. I should have my website on there. Go to the bottom of that page and leave me the word faith in the comments, and then I will receive that. But faith mindset course is all about having a mindset based on faith that can sit there and drive you for the rest of your life. It's a lifelong thing. It's a really good course, and I really encourage you to do that. And there's some training and mentoring in that those options as well. If you're interested, please let me know. We'll be glad to help you out. But about that whole thing about being better, about betterment, right? We got to look at kind of some things to leave you with to be better, right? Next steps. 1, get in the mindset of lifelong learning. Get in the mindset of saying, hey, I have my whole life ahead of me. Every day I want to learn something because every day I want to be better than I was yesterday. So I'm going to do something today that will improve you. So that's the second item. First is get in the mindset of lifelong learning, knowing that this learning is lifelong. And then step 2, do something today that will improve you. And then number 3, don't just settle. Settle on bettering. Kind of play on words there, right? Don't settle. Settle on bettering. So what I mean by that is if you look at the dictionary definition of bettering, right? Comes from better. I kind of invented the word bettering, but better, of superior quality or excellence. Morally superior, more victorious, right? Larger, greater, improved in health, healthier than before. Those are all the things about being better and bettering yourself. Being better than you were yesterday. So, you have to ask yourself, are you willing to be better today than you were yesterday? Are you willing to take those steps? I hope you are, because I want to see you succeed. And so, please feel free to dialogue with me. My YouTube channel, Rodney O Weekly, shows that I am living what I speak. Please be sure to subscribe to that channel. The link is in the podcast description, or you can simply go to YouTube and search Rodney O Weekly. I will be returning to that as usual to make new episodes soon. You can catch up on all my old ones, but remember this. I want to inspire, encourage, and motivate all of you as you navigate this journey that we call life. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you guys in the next one.